Hi, it's Suzi Wu, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
Finally hanging out with Suzi Wu. I've been watching your stuff for about a year now.
Oh.
And when Stephen Victor from Def Jam started posting about you, I was like, yes, finally someone is taking advantage and bringing her to the States. How are you?
Very good, really good, yeah.
So talk to me about that process of getting discovered by Def Jam. And, how did that come about? And, how did that kind of change your music and the way that you create your music today?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think I got discovered because I did an interview with Pigeons and Planes, which you might know, and I already had my first single, Taken Care of, out and a video. And the guy who was interviewing me just happened to really love the way that I answered the questions, and was like, "Oh, guys, you need to meet this girl," and then sent it off to Paul Rosenberg and Steven. And yeah, I ended up just really getting along with them. I really liked them. I vibed with them. So I was like, they're cool. And what was your other question?
How has that kind of changed the way that you've been creating your music now?
It hasn't, and that's what's really good.
Nice.
Is that it hasn't really. I'm kind of allowed free reign on what I want to do. So the only thing it's made me feel is I'm more connected to the true things that I feel I've got hip hop in my soul. So it's nice to be part of Def Jam, I guess.
Yeah. So it's crazy that Paul Rosenberg is such a big name in the hip hop world. So did you even think about it when he first approached you and about being part of the family?
I mean, Def Jam was a huge deal for me then. Paul, I knew a little less about, and that was a good thing, because dude is literally a music industry giant, both figuratively and literally. He's really tall, and but. To be honest, what's the weirdest thing is that they all seem so normal. Yeah. And that's kind of why I like them. Right. It's because they're not actually so shiny. It's cool.
So you got the signing with Def Jam, and then you got to release your sophomore EP. And tell me about this EP and the creative process of Era 404. What inspired this EP compared to your debut EP?
This one was just me testing my boundaries and my limits and my barriers of what I could do with sound and what I could fit into pop. And some of it I'm going to keep, and some of it I won't, probably, for the next one. So a lot of it was written in the studios. It was almost an excuse for me to watch producers do things that I wanted to learn. So a lot of the tracks on it, Era 404 was inspired by Brockhampton's song Stupid. I was trying to get an early 2000s sound that still sounded like something new. Yeah. So... just messing around, and a bit of R&B is obviously in there. You can hear some Timbaland influence, and so it's a lot about experimenting with production.
Now, did you mentioned earlier going into producers to see how they kind of work, but I feel for you, you would love to just take control of everything. So have you been dabbling a lot in producing your own music, and how do you feel about that?
So much this year, because Taken Care of was my original demo and really wasn't touched, and I just thought, I've got to get back to that. So there's another couple new songs in the set that you're going to hear that I am dying to release. Everything has to go so slowly, but there is something coming out this summer. Nice. So that'll be cool. Yeah. So
did you feel like this EP kind of helped you kind of navigate and figure out what your true sound is, or is that something that you're still kind of trying to discover or test the waters with?
I would hope that my true sound evolves for my whole life, but I do think that the next sound is going to be a mixture of both of the two, and kind of the best of both worlds of the EPs. So that's going to be really interesting.
Now, what producers did you go into the studio to work on this EP with?
There was a guy called Barney Lister. He's from the north of England, like me, and we just had a great time. We made Era 404 together. He's kind of he's got a kind of sort of northern attitude to hip hop, which I like. Nice. And then it was Dave from Glass Animals as well. So he's awesome to work with because he kind of he has a very similar sound influences to me. Mm-hmm. So we're still working together, and we're probably going to make I imagine at least an EP together. Nice. So that'd be cool.
Now you also wrote with Dave. So what's it like writing with him? Is that the first time that you've co-written with someone?
I don't know. Co-writes is such a funny term because I think what people think co-writes are is that they help you with the lyrics, but they don't. Because often I'll go into a co-write and it'll be more about them doing the production side of things, which is kind of odd because I don't really let anyone touch my lyrics. Yeah. I'm very cagey with it, yeah. And like production wise as well, I bring in demos now, and what I love about Dave is he still finds that incredibly creatively like stimulating because he's a very talented producer. So if I bring him a demo, he's like, bang, like he's like, oh wow, that sounds really weird, let's turn that up. And that's kind of what you want.
So what is the idea behind your music? Because like these sounds are something that you don't hear every day. The lyrics, the same thing. So are you trying, obviously you want to be different from all the other music out there, but are you trying to hit that kind of weird kind of sound as well at the same time?
I never try.
I like that.
You should never try.
I like that.
You should just go in and do. I think trying is always leads to, you can hear it in the music when someone's tried. So I try to sort of let things be how they are. I'll go in with an idea, but if I feel like I'm forcing something into something that doesn't fit, I try to like leave it and try something different, or go back and do something that works, and then because I'll get it eventually, whatever it is, I'll get it eventually.
Now tell me a little bit more about your sound for this EP. Like what inspired the sound, the sounds that we hear on the 4 tracks?
This one, a lot of it was like, it's such an odd thing. A lot of the things I was going through when I wrote the first EP, I've sort of more explored in the second one, because it's almost as if I find it much easier after big emotional events to write about them when I'm sort of out of them.
Okay.
So a lot of it was kind of about like things that I was experiencing at the time, which were pretty unpleasant. So this one's pretty dark. And what's interesting is this next one coming, like the next stuff coming, I finally started writing some like more happy songs, like more joyous stuff, and I'm like really excited for people to hear what I sound like when I'm in a good mood,
Now, how does your writing process vary from when you're in a darker side to like when you're in the more happier side?
I think it's the sounds that vary more than the writing.
Okay.
It's like the writing is, the process doesn't vary that much because it's always different. Every time I go in, I start differently. But yeah, the sounds and the melodies are kind of more, they have more of an indie sensibility to them when I go down that route. And like I have found that my darker stuff does tend to like be more based in the hip hop world, which I've only just realized now saying that. But there you go. You got something really good out of me there.
So how would you feel, like, how would you say like your music has kind of evolved then?
I think it has progressed in its level of maturity, and I think that certain things that I was trying to avoid, I've stopped trying to avoid. I didn't want to write about love because I thought that I'd made that promise to myself when I was literally like 6. I was like, it's boring, and everyone was always writing pop songs about love, and I was like, I want to do everything. But then I realized, well, if you don't do it, then maybe you can't. So I'm trying to challenge myself to hit topics that I haven't hit.
Right.
Yeah.
And with this EP, what do you think was like the biggest challenge in creating the EP?
Probably because being honest, because it's really, really hard to be so honest with your art. I could hide away and just like make everything super cryptic and not tell people like what it's about, but I also want to let people into my world. So finding that balance and trying to be honest.
Now, is it harder for you to be honest on the lyrics, or is it harder to be honest in the production when you're recording those vocal tracks?
Probably the lyrics.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of the feeling. Some people like they can kind of like stay that in their voice, but like when I'm emotional, it comes out. It cracks, it bends, so definitely lyrics.
That's when you only use that one take, because that's the true emotion that comes out, right?
Yeah, it's the best ones.
So now that you are able to perform these songs live, especially here in the States, like first time out in the States, first tour, like how have these songs changed now that you kind of play them in front of an audience?
I think it's less that they've changed, but more my performance has changed. So it's not so much that the songs themselves are changing for me, but it's more I'm starting to like really appreciate the way that other people are bopping and grooving to them, and that changes the way that I bop and groove to them when I'm on stage. So it's really cool when you see someone out in the crowd and they know like every word. Like I had one mum and her really titchy tiny daughter come, and they both knew all the words to everything that was out. Cool. It was really cute. Yeah. That's cool. I love things like that.
Now, do you think about that performance or the band, the backing band, when you are in the writing process of new material?
I definitely do now, and some of the new songs have more sort of like build and dramatics and theatrics in them, because without testing and playing on that space with those people, you can't find what that will be. And Dave told me that actually as well, because of course he does so much live stuff. He's like, when you do this tour, the way you produce will change. And he's right. Like, I already think of it differently.
That's cool. Now tell me more about like this tour that you're on right now. Like how has, that changed your mindset in the writing? Just like you mentioned earlier, like how specifically has it changed you?
I think, honestly, like, the amount of adventures I've had, like, I've met, like, kids from all around the country. I've been skinny dipping in Lake Michigan in Chicago. Like, it's cold. I've done all these things and had all these experiences. I've been surfing here.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to bleed into, like, the emotion and the writing for sure.
Right. Now, one thing I noticed, like watching your videos, there's that theme. Like if anybody would put a video on, even if your face wasn't on there, like I would know it's one of your songs, type of thing. Like, so is that something that you think about when you are, getting ready to make those music videos? And how invested are you into those music videos?
I'm very invested. I make them with my friend who I live with, Pierce Gabriel, who's actually here now, and he does all my video and visuals. But I also co-direct and sort of do more narrative work. And I think for me, sometimes I come up with the music video before I come up with the song.
Wow.
Which is cool because, like, I don't feel like I'm trying to shoehorn any meaning into the actual lyrics.
Right.
It just it comes naturally when it does. I'll be like, oh, I know I want to do this kind of film technique, and then it's like I'll be writing a song and I'm like, aha, this is it. So yeah, I think about it a lot.
That's cool. I've never heard anybody think about like the visuals before they actually like put the lyrics down.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think it's maybe because my mum's an artist, so I'm so used to like her level of visual sort of learning.
Right.
So it's not really like, I think it's almost something I've inherited rather than it's intrinsic in my nature.
Right. So now that you're on tour now, the EP is out now. Like, what can fans expect for the remainder of this year?
A lot. I think I really want to do some dates in Europe and the UK. And I'm definitely going to be releasing some stuff that I've been sat on for like basically a year and a half now.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff I wrote the first trip I ever came to LA that I haven't released, that I'm now just itching to get out because it's so, it's really, really good. So yeah, there's going to be a whole ton of stuff.
Now, you recently did Governor's Ball. Do you feel like that festival kind of changed your mindset on your music? Because that's, it's different going to venues as opposed to going, like, performing on a festival stage. Did that change anything at all?
I mean, anything, it just gave me more confidence. Because when you're at a festival, like, there's no winning over the crowd. Like, they're there for the day.
Right.
And it's more just kind of like, I felt so much love. American audiences, they give you love. So, like, I really felt that.
Yeah.
It was great.
So for those fans that are not familiar with you yet, like, why did you decide to choose music as your career path?
Because, as Tom Waits would say, it was either that or a career in, like, what was it, air conditioning and sales and repair. So, yeah.